Hello everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of Blockheads. So, as you can probably imagine by the name of Blockheads, we are absolutely blockchain enthusiasts. We're also crypto evangelists, right? But last and without least, we are just straight up technology insomniacs. Before we begin with the exciting topic for this week, and I am genuinely excited for this week, I want to just do a brief intro. I've been friends with these two blockheads for quite some time now. We all hail from the banking industry, but within the tech space specifically. I'm Diggy.
Pankaj, PK for Starbucks.
And you got Andy here.
Fantastic. Love to meet you all. And just wanted to kind of kick off with this particular week's topic. As you can imagine, on the news and everywhere that's going, automation and AI seems to be the hottest thing at the moment. But also at the same time, there's quite a bit of talk around, what's happening around the kind of bull market, particularly in the crypto world, and now starting to kind of ramp back up, and people are starting to get more excited about both of these things. For me, one thing that I've always been passionate about is how do these two worlds really now integrate, because both are moving at a rate of nonsense at the moment, right? And whenever we look at, particularly around exploring the future of AI and cryptocurrency, if I look specifically around AI, what's the hottest thing right now? ChatGPT, right? So for me, if I was to kind of focus on it, how do we look at what are some use cases, Pankaj? I want to get your thoughts on some ways we can look to integrate cryptocurrency, let's just say from trading, and also the use of automation tools or AI tools like ChatGPT. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so trading already uses some level of cryptocurrency trading uses some level of AI already. There are lots of algo traders. We attended one of the what do you call that? Conferences, crypto conferences. Yes. And there were lots of companies which are doing crypto trading using AI. Again, AI is very broad. You can call it anything, right? Basically, statistical analysis of past data, and you can try to predict what is going to happen in the future. I think that's good to use it. It's good to make money out using that. The thing that worries me the most is what happens when you have a central, singular company controlling the AI that is used by most people. So, for instance, if ChatGPT or OpenAI, which is a better company, they release capability, and they actually have a capability where they allow us to build, for instance, a trading bot, right? I can build a trading bot which asks that system to come up with the best prediction for today in crypto. It will come up with something, right? Now, what happens when Andy builds one, and what happens if our interests are conflicting? So, and the obvious next step, if the AI is designed to do exactly what it asked to do, so for instance, make the most for us, then does the AI then get into insider trading? Does it go and manipulate people who are actually asking questions from that organization? So, for instance, Microsoft is, again, not sponsored by Microsoft. ChatGPT, I think, is either being brought by Microsoft or they are working on some cases.
So, 10 million.
10 billion.
Microsoft is a lot of money, so this is not going to be a big deal for them. But yeah, you think of it. So if an employee who's working in Microsoft asks ChatGPT for some questions that may decide the future of Microsoft. And I'm not talking this will happen tomorrow. I'm talking about 10 years from now, when the system has matured, when the AI system has integrated with a lot of systems, and it sees internal patterns, not patterns that are existing outside the world, but patterns that are happening within OpenAI or ChatGPT's backend. So once it sees those patterns, it gets into a very tricky and scary territory where it can start manipulating organizations or give responses in such a way that they take decisions which will then impact your prices. Now, there is no way we will be able to know that this was the insider trading because the insider is essentially a black
But can I clarify something over there, and Andy, what's your thoughts on specifically, because that insider trading, when you having come from finance and everything else, we're still talking about an entity with an AI application. So in the sense of like Microsoft having this particular AI, whether it's be through ChatGPT or some other iteration, it's still got some level of, and purely from a regulation and governance point of view, there's still oversight on this is not some rogue AI out there. Because I can actually understand where you're coming from that use case where if it is just anyone out there using open source and with an AI and they're doing rogue trading, that then becomes like a kind of murky world, right? But at least from a company's point of view, there's still some sort of association tagging around it. I mean, maybe I'm not sure, but there's something around it. But we'd love to get your thoughts, Andy, on like obviously these types of use cases. Do you see any benefits there? Was it like, yeah, there's concerns and everything?
Yeah, like one of the things when Pankaj was explaining the insider trading, I was thinking, I mean, I'm not challenging that, I'm just thinking, is it possible, I mean, for that to happen, like the ChatGPT would have to have that data, right? So if that data is not available to ChatGPT, then that insider trading could not happen. So
yes, I agree. You're right. I'll give you an example of something that happened, and I think this is something that I read. I don't remember what exactly happened. I'll just try to paraphrase this. Okay, so when ChatGPT 3.0 was released sometime in December, November, end of December, early December. So one guy went online and asked ChatGPT to list all the banking websites with known vulnerabilities. Right? Now, you get a list of websites that have known vulnerabilities, and then you ask it to build malware or just a simple program to exploit those vulnerabilities. Right? Now, it's overly simplified scenario. This most likely will not build a tool because even if there is even if there is an exploit, it's not easy to actually just exploit something unless it's something that's there from early 2000s. Right? The new vulnerabilities are actually very complex, even if you know that technology. Yeah. But with AI learning so much, and we will need to have some level of shared corpus, some data which will be shared between most of the AI for it to be able to respond in proper English. So there will be some knowledge that it will have inherently, not all the information, but some information will always be with it. So I don't trust humans to be very smart, given Australian, last year was not great for Australian data privacy. There were lots of incidents where we had issues like this, right? And this is just, again, we need to understand that the AI is a system which learns, and if there is a possible vulnerability, someone may exploit that vulnerability, even within an organization. And let's say, even if there is no data, let's say that system doesn't have the data. But let's say me and you work in the same organization, we say that, okay, you have access to this AI within the organization which has limited access to some data. I have access to this AI which has limited access to this data. Yeah. Now, we have to ask questions to the AI, right? So that means there is a way for us to input data into the AI. Yeah. Now, what if we ask it, what's the best way to input more structured data to it, and then give the data, I'll get the data from you and load it in my AI, or I'll get the data from my AI and give it to you. So, we assume that these systems will be sturdy and will have the security built in, but I think it's not wishful thinking, but we are overestimating our capabilities.
I think that's an interesting point of context because the stuff that we're talking about here isn't something like AI is creating new problems necessarily out of it. It is what it is, these are existing problems, but the scale can be quite impactful because we're talking about like self-taught machine learning type AI that can possibly do it a lot better than humans in the future, right? So for example, a lot of these security and vulnerability threats is always done by hacks and things that people who have been out there doing that. Now there's potentially, so if anything, I think there's a greater opportunity here for companies to tighten up on and actually invest and actually go hard on cybersecurity and making sure that we've got like really sound controls in place. But I think for me, I'm still kind of like, I want to go back to this one topic because I'm intrigued from a trading point of view because, if you look at the world, particularly in decentralized finance, right? This is the part where there is risk society, right? Wherever you guys stand on philosophically, particularly around whether you want crypto to be a lot more regulated or decentralized, I think that's going to be another topic we can absolutely explore. But for me, there's still like some sort of value and benefit in a decentralized finance system, and in fact, it's that classic zero trust. Like we fully believe in the kind of computerized systems that are out there that are helping to kind of like validate things with smart contracts and everything else. However, I think for me, what's very, very interesting is the scale and rollout of even automation before we get into AI means there's potentially risks that are out there around like for trading and those kinds of purposes, particularly if there are new companies that are looking to launch new projects and tokens, things like that. All it could take is just having a series of bots that are out there going and creating huge demand and a huge interesting kind of spike in any sort of pricing or like value, because it's not real humans out there who are actually creating those trades. It could be one of those things. So, and particularly from a decentralized point of view, because we don't have those regulations in place, do you see a risk, or am I talking out of my ass?
I see. So there's a couple of things with trading specifically, and then with crypto in general, not just trading. So when I'm saying trading, I'm even this could be for trading for anything, not just crypto.
Right.
And with the trading part, there's something. So I started seeing lots of, especially videos on YouTube of people making, well, they claim to be making money with trading bots.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I'm not saying that might work, but here's some interesting thought. So what happens if everyone starts using ChatGPT for a trading bot, right? So trading. Like essentially, if I do a trade and I win, so there's essentially someone that's losing, right? So at some point, if all of us start using ChatGPT, I mean, who will win and who will lose?
So I used to have a very strong opinion about this, right? So I don't think trading bots work. So there are lots of bots already. AI is something.
But so in that case, trading bots could work if basically you're competing who has the best algorithm. But in this case, this is different. Like what happens? So ChatGPT is so good, right? Well, that's what everyone's saying. But what happens if everyone uses ChatGPT? Then
So currently the assumption is that so usually trading what they do is they follow some mechanism, some algorithm to decide what to buy, what not, or what to sell, right? And that is based on the candle charts usually, and how much variance happens. So some people follow SMA and a few of those metrics. Now, the main differentiator between people is which pattern works. And my view always has been that none of these work, because the moment one pattern starts working, people sell that as a service. I have known people who try to sell it to me and I say, don't bother. So what happens is once something works, then everyone starts using it, and once everyone starts using it, it stops working. So that market is kind of like a living being. It kind of normalizes everything. So it will work for the first 2 or 3 days, but the 4th day it will just stop working because everyone is using the same system. But when it comes to AI, it makes that a bit. It takes it to the next level, right? Because now you can ask the AI which is the best algorithm, not just that use this algorithm. Instead, you just ask which is algorithm. What it will do is it will just keep hopping between algorithms every day. So that's probably what happens.
Maybe the difference would be who uses ChatGPT in the best way, or who gets more creative and finds better ways to use it. I don't know.
There is that actually triggers a very interesting thing. Okay, so I personally believe that to be a good developer or engineer, all you need to know is how to do things.
Yeah.
Well, it's not.
And now it's how to ChatGPT.
So there is something called
Which should come and you learn now.
Yes. So now there is something called as ChatGPT input engineering or something like that, where you engineer the question that you ask so that you get the best answer. Wow. So now this is something that is going to emerge, and people will probably start learning more how to ask the right question rather than thinking and coming up with a solution. Right?
it's
One time.
I mean, just on the side note here, it's a bit of an interesting joke, but I could see a world where we see people's salaries potentially reduced the more you use ChatGPT. You have like pay a primary engineer, and then you go 20% over here to whatever you use ChatGPT, but that's a whole different world there. It's going to open up a can of worms around the pay structures. But I think moving away from the trading side of things, and I think more specifically around like a broader use case here in terms of integration, because cryptocurrency, ChatGPT, for most people, they're sitting, AI automation is sitting in the traditional world, still like before traditional enough, like we're technology economy, and crypto and blockchain are kind of sitting in this kind of alternate universe, so to speak, right? But for me, it's like, what are some use cases that you can think of where these two worlds can integrate? What are some implications from that?
Yeah, so, I mean, one obvious use case, I mean, this is I think it's a benefit, right? So, and this, I mean, could be for crypto in general, but also, for crypto, sorry, specific, but also in general as an engineer. I mean, we can use ChatGPT as our coding assistant, right? So, as a software engineer, I think we should learn how to use it to so that it basically makes our job much easier. So we could be way more productive. In the same way that when not Google, but when before browsers, it was like very hard to find a solution for a problem. Essentially, you didn't have that much data as and then it was obviously you had to learn how to use essentially how to Google or when searching for a solution so that you are more competitive. Now it's basically the same. I think the same thing. I think we should learn how to use it so that we are more productive. And I started I struggled the first days. I couldn't log in. Then try to see how it start using it. And when I started, I was like, I can see the potential. And which brings me to the other topic I wanted to mention. So, in particular in crypto, right? So this is something interesting. So at the moment, what's one of the main issues at the moment with crypto? There's so many shitcoins, right? So many scams, so many projects that when you're about to buy a new coin, a new token, there's a lot of uncertainty that it could be a scam, or it could be, or maybe it's not a scam, but it's just or it has value, but the code is poorly written and it has lots of vulnerabilities, security issues. And if you are just a regular person, you don't know how to read code, it will be very hard for you. Like, how can you trust it, right? How do you know if it's written like with good code quality? So there's no way for you to know, and except trusting what people say, or essentially what technologies say, right? Or usually the case, essentially what everyone does is we use a third party for security audit, and then that's what makes you trust in a product. But coming back to the point, now what GPT would allow is to people use ChatGPT to say, okay, here's a piece of code. Can you find any security vulnerabilities? And on one hand, that could be a bad thing because hackers could use that. But on the other hand, people can use that to say, okay, this code from this new project doesn't have any security issues. So that's another. So it looks fine from the code point of view. So now I trust, I'm more confident to choose this project or to buy this token or whatever. And if that happens, that would mean that, and also if that happens and people start buying tokens that have higher quality and stop buying the properties that are not properties, the tokens that are scams or have been poorly written, it means that there will be less issues, like when essentially there will be less people falling into scams, or maybe less issues with when you bought a token and then there was a security issue and then essentially it was hacked. So if that happens, that opens up a possibility where there are essentially people who start choosing better projects, and that would bring more trust into the industry, and essentially that would mean more people buying crypto. So that's one option.
I have a bit of different opinion. So okay, think of it like this. So what we are thinking is a secure token or a well-written token is a better token. That's not necessary. I mean, they're not
just from the security point of view.
Yeah. So and just because something is secure does not mean it has value.
Yeah, of course.
So,
but I think this is an example there. And it's a really interesting one because really well designed AI, in fact, that is constantly learning, can help you do both. I mean, quality as well as like in terms of like inherent value based on the complexity or like whatever the code is trying to do.
I mean, so this is one of the problems, right? That's when I started saying this is one of the issues we have in crypto. Yeah. This has the potential. I'm not saying it's going to fix that, but it has the potential to fix that specific problem.
Yes. Actually, now. And this is where it gets very interesting. It's going back to the very early point around companies that are now like owners of certain AI. Because I think I like where you're coming from when it comes to this kind of thinking around like an AI that's helping to kind of like make that process faster, so it helps you make informed decisions on your trades as opposed to waiting for paying lots of money for like external auditor and things like that, right? Now, if we look at the kind of corporate worlds that we've come from, when you've got powerhouses like the big fours and things like that are behind a particular audit and everything else, you've got that kind of like stamp of approval and trust that comes with it, right? As opposed to... I still don't trust the big But what I think we that is this creates a really interesting open minefield of whole raft of AIs that are being developed by all sorts of people, and they're just going out there and doing something. Where even with the raft of things that are available there, how we as like kind of users able to differentiate between the ones to trust and make informed decisions versus the ones that could be taking advantage, etc., because it is an anarchy out there in terms of the thing, right? So would you prefer a model that has more of that part being not regulated, but at least kind of centralized in a way where you have trusted companies doing that? Or would you prefer the true spirit of a decentralized world that this is still open?
Yeah, this is a controversial topic, and okay. Decentralized generally works. The reason why I'm saying that is, if you think about it, if there is, I mean, open source in the last 5 or 6 years has become very popular. It's exploded. A lot of people have gotten into the open source world, and if there is a vulnerability, if there is a problem with the model, for instance, people out of their goodwill tend to fix those problems in the general thing. Now, again, I don't have a problem with a company having ownership, but what they do with it is what I'm worried about. So, for instance, let's say, I mean, this example, Microsoft, right? They have it, no problem. I trust Microsoft. Let them do what they do. Now,
is that because you have the Microsoft?
Now, not to mention the tax that we have to pay on really good places using Microsoft. It's going to make it faster for us. I have more time for coffee.
Let's say I start a company and I use OpenAI from Microsoft. I pay them. They already have actually few APIs from Google. I pay them for this ChatGPT API and start using it. Currently, if you notice the public version of ChatGPT, you cannot ask certain questions. So, for instance, you cannot ask how to make a Molotov bomb. Right? You cannot afford
because someone's.
Yes. So someone has actually hard-coded that. If there are any questions about making bombs or threatening someone, don't respond or respond like this. Right? But then when this company gives it to my company, that API, and I'm paying a little more, will that have that restriction? For instance, so that's a bad example. Let's say I'm a security company. I say that I'm a security company. I'll tell Microsoft that my specific use case is to find vulnerabilities. Right? Now, Microsoft has said that okay, you can use the API, and in your case, because you're a security company, I have to let you ask questions like, are there vulnerabilities in my company or my clients?
Just what happens today.
Exactly. Yeah. But then currently what happens is someone actually sits there and goes through all the known vulnerabilities and tries to exploit it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Now with AI, what we can with AI, what we can do is just we can open the codes and let it run some scripts and it will do and see, okay, this is using Apache, this is using Nginx, there are no problems, we can find the problem and fix it. Now, one of my employees, who's a smart ass, thinks that he can now point that AI to a website that his friend runs and he doesn't like him. So what he says is, he find all the vulnerabilities in this guy's website and then exploit the website, right? So
because its primary purpose is to.
yes. So we like who takes the ownership of making sure that these APIs are not exploited?
Because there's no human intervention over there.
So I mean, it is an evolving space, and again, I'm not saying that we should stop working on this. This is required for humans to.
I think, to be honest, we're working on one of the best ever. This is one of my passionate things that I think in the future, because everyone's worried about AI in general when it comes to taking over jobs. And I know I made like a slight joke about it before, but I really feel governance roles of AI is going to be the next big thing because of these cases like that.
Yeah.
Because all this is doing is like fast tracking the automation and like things you can actually do. Yeah. But the real use cases that we're talking about here is without human intervention, we lose that trust and it kind of gets all sorts of exploitation happen as a result of that. Right? So that's a very interesting one. Yeah.
I had one more thing to say something that Andy pointed earlier, where we should use AI to make our lives easier as a developer, right? But that comes from a position of knowing how to develop. So when you know how to develop, then you can use the tools to help. But when you don't know how to develop, so a graduate hire, if they use the AI, they will never learn to do coding. So what they will do is they will always depend on AI. So for instance, when I was growing up, you should know multiplication, as in you should know the tables we use for it. So you should have memorized the up to 12 table, right? Now it's kind of stupid. Like you don't really have to memorize that. You have a calculator, you have a phone which can tell you that.
Well, we are about the same age. When we were kids, calculators were already there.
Yeah, we did not have access to it.
So,
but now everyone has access to it.
That's a really interesting point though. So I just did my own time rounds in high school and knowing my dad's era of having maths, they memorized sine, cos tables, you name it, right? Yeah. I was like, my dad was trying like 2 million hard, and I was like, come on, nerds. Like, literally, I showed them something calculator, like, memorize all this for. But you're absolutely right, there's a certain balance. I think it's going to have a huge implication on the education, not only in high school, but also universities, around how they absolutely teach the fundamentals in the core for skipping those steps. Because I think this is incredibly important. You can't have graduates and people coming out, even let's say, forget about like the traditional programming world, they're coming into the crypto programming world, like not that there's any great education things that are out there, but that are surely developed. You don't want them to have like a stream of people that are out there that have skipped a whole bunch of processes and are actually not equipped to kind of look at this from an end-to-end perspective or from a depth perspective when they need to. That's a very important skill.
At the risk of countering myself, okay, think of it like this. Let's say Stack Overflow goes offline tomorrow, and this has happened before.
Mm-hmm.
If Stack Overflow goes offline, most of the development will stop across the world. I'm honest. People stop doing coding because they get stuck and they don't know what to do next. And this is happening now. So I will probably stop doing coding if I cannot access Google.
Right.
This is a problem already.
But also because you know that it's going to be running again in
hopefully
in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. But I would feel handicapped if I'm not able to access Google. Right? Yeah. Now, so is it not just the next step of that, where instead of Googling, you're just asking someone the same thing, instead of writing the question in a way that Google understands, you're just asking like a person, how do I solve the problem?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe we should just let it be, and people should depend on AI more. But I think there should be some level, like we should have at least a bare minimum that you have, like you understand data structures at least, you understand algorithms at least.
Can I challenge you guys on one thing? Because I think it's really interesting. Both you guys have kind of talked about AI from what I call like the first and second iteration of what we're seeing from ChatGPT. It's very much still this is just like a smarter Google, like a more better combining data sets, being able to kind of like spit out the information to the risk transfer. In fact, I use it to combine data sets, for example, like red wine, France, things like that, help me create some incredibly good exec summary reports like we use for like solving this and that. So it's got some really cool content writing. This is just the first iteration, right? But remember, the true power of AI is that it goes into the creative, like the ability to kind of like almost think and outdo humans in the way of doing this. No, it's not just some tool that can help you to like provide some stuff. This thing can then be out there to produce better code and better projects than crypto, for example, eventually. Because it's taking, remember, this thing's now sitting there, like, you can't OpenAI that's able to read like 50 different or 80 different projects per hour. Technically speaking, if it's learned fast enough around what are those things that are generating value, there's nothing stopping it unless we stop it.
But I think the question is, so at the moment, and I don't know if with the new version of ChatGPT this will change, but at least at the moment, I don't think there is any creativity. I mean, that might be arguable, but because what is it doing is basically using the data that is there. So there's nothing. So if you ask ChatGPT to assist you with something, it's not that it's creating something new. And that's the edge that we have, right? So I mean, it's using whatever solution or whatever output it gives you, but it's based on the data that's already there.
Right.
I don't think, as far as I know, it's not coming up with something new.
So this is getting into philosophical area, and this is one of my favorite topics where I mentioned this to one of my old managers when we were speaking, obviously. So the primary question is, what is creativity? Like, how do you know something is creative? And my hypothesis, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are smarter than me have already told this in a different way. Creativity is nothing but using a solution from one place into another place and not remembering it. You have taken an existing solution from somewhere else and applied that solution into a completely unrelated area. You just don't remember where you copied the solution from, and you think that's a gut feeling or creativity.
So essentially, you're saying use an existing solution, but for a problem that hasn't been used before.
Correct.
Okay, I think yes. I think that's good.
That's a definition of the one thing that I've always found is very philosophical around humans, particularly when it comes to arts and those things, right? Creativity is always seen as something that is not often like something that's been replicated before, or like a previous solution. It's almost something so new that it's like, that is actually quite mind-blowing. But to be honest, I don't need to go as far as that. In fact, I'm not even worried about the day that it starts doing better arguments. From that, and I think going into that part, it's actually really important because what it's doing is it's becoming a better problem solver than us, which is something that we as humans have been like just amazing.
But that's not the thing, right? I mean, and if that's the case, if it's good at problem solving, we have a lot of problems to solve. Like honestly, we literally sitting here in the world's biggest problem, global warming, pollution. You have plastic. These are problems that need to be solved, and we can get some help. It will definitely be useful. The problem that this will create is what will people do when they don't have anything else to do? Like what happens if there's nothing else to do? Right? So what happens if okay? So let's say I'm an engineer and I have ChatGPT or some AI as my assistant, right? For some reason I'm lucky and my boss says, okay, I'll pay you. You have this instance of ChatGPT and work with it. He gives me a problem or she gives me a problem. I build it to solve the problem. Now I could have hired 2 more engineers to do that. But now I am selfish and I don't want to hire new people and I want to keep my job safe. So for the next 15, 20 years, I'm just going to have ChatGPT learn more and more and more and deliver that, right? There are two potential job losses. What are they going to do?
And in fact, the realism on this one, Andy, as well, is that I do know of a couple of companies, I won't name them in this particular episode, but there's one company for sure that has actually looked into already replacing content writers with a pro version of this. And that's really key.
That's all.
There's nothing.
And nothing to be too scared of, because obviously large organizations that are governed, like your banks, things like that, will take quite some time before we can onboard a ChatGPT to be So things like this will take some time. However, I think the interesting thing about this question is we've always had throughout history all sorts of revolutions that have taken place, where we've had the Industrial Revolution, which eventually replaced a whole bunch of manual labor. We've had the kind of revolutions that have taken place that, even from accounting and how manual everything used to be, we've got the software that splits things out. So these things have always taken place. The one thing, and we've always found as humans, other roles that we can create. And even as the population seems to be growing, we seem to be able to create a lot more jobs. So, and it's great. However, I think the one thing that I do feel it's an interesting challenge coming up is it's not so much that we haven't had this before, like these revolutions. The pace of this, and particularly if multiple nodes of AI is being generated with technology like this, the pace of this is going to be relentless. Because this isn't something that's like, oh, one's going to take 20 years to go. It's like, bam, 5 years. It's going to be.
The thing with AI is, ChatGPT when it was released, it reached 1 million users in 5 days. Now, now imagine it took ages for TV to reach 1 million users, right? And the other problem with AI is it learns exponentially. Now it is up to the OpenAI company. Well, problem because the good things, when they accelerate, we won't feel the impact so much. But when the bad things accelerate, we will feel the impact pretty quickly, right? So that's a problem in that sense. But yeah, it can learn and it will learn exponentially. It will get better at it. Like within 3 or 4 years, we will be 100% reliant on AI. There's no way we'll not be using it.
In some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, exactly. The question is, how do we manage it? How do we control? Most probably the solution is going to be some kind of data isolation. Almost all companies will provide you specific data set to work with. Not.
I mean, it actually almost has to work hand in hand. Like anything to do with the GDPRs and everything else, it actually looks at the data and privacy and protection. That almost has to work hand in hand with these things. Okay? It can't be separated. But yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
So yeah.
I just thought about another thing that could have an impact, that ChatGPT could have an impact on crypto, which is, we saw, like, there's thousands of cryptocurrencies out there. Now with ChatGPT being accessible to everyone, that could mean that also many people that were not able, because lack of technical knowledge. Now you can use ChatGPT and just say, write me some code to write this token. So that potentially could be an explosion of new cryptos, which I think is good. The more the better. Obviously there will be lots of shitcoins also, but there could be also new interesting projects as well.
But interesting project in the sense we are expecting people to come up with an interesting solution, and ChatGPT or AI helping them with that solution rather than AI coming up with the solution. Yeah, that makes sense. That's what we expect to happen for the next.
That's actually quite an interesting challenge. Interesting position that we'll have, because you could have someone who's, I can easily say that you guys are some of the smartest developers I know, but you can have someone as junior as me, done a basic coding in university, for example, come in and actually using ChatGPT or some sort of an AI equivalent.
Sorry, I stopped thinking after you said smartest.
It was great. I think for me, the interesting part is you can have someone who's got concepts and ideas like I have, but I'm not obviously smart enough to do the problem solving myself. But I've kind of allowed ChatGPT or one of these types of equivalent tools to go out there, search 50 or 80 different projects types like this, and combine certain things to go, right, can you take this concept, they've done it well, and come up with something for me that can help to solve X, Y, and Z problems.
Yeah.
And that's quite an interesting thing to have because it actually just then takes away, well, one, it adds the pace and scale problem because there'll be lots of people like me doing that.
Yeah.
But secondly, this becomes potentially like a cowboy. Everyone's out there just doing all sorts of stuff.
And there's also there's also, another thing that could happen is that more people could get into this kind of. For instance, right? You are into the tech space, but you're not a developer. Now you could say, okay, I could try it, right? Why not? And then you might actually start doing development with.
Right.
Because now you feel confident that you can use ChatGPT to do this, right?
That's interesting.
I had a similar thought, but more around trust of data, trusting the data that we get from ChatGPT or any AI for that. Okay, so one of the problems that we face as a society is fake news or information that is not 100% right, correct? Now, let's say we all use AI and we all ask, and this is a question that I asked ChatGPT a few days back.
Yeah.
What happens if I ask, like, if I relentlessly ask the same question again and again, will this create a bias in your response? And it says because because my responses are based on previous experiences, there is a possibility that it can be.
Wow.
So think of DDoS on ChatGPT. So now, let's say I ask ChatGPT, who's the best developer? And it says Steve Wozniak or Linus Torvalds. And I say, no, that's wrong answer. Pankaj is the best developer. And I write a script and call this API 50,000 times every day. And after 15 days, no matter who asks this question, it's like, no one else is the best developer. Pankaj is the best developer. And this is sounds funny, but let's say you are a bigger entity, not a person. Let's say you are a bigger entity with a lot of money. Now you can have another solution, AI or humans, and you can ask questions to change the perception. So ChatGPT's kind of has a persona, if you think about it. ChatGPT has a persona of our own collective knowledge, like the knowledge that the society has. Or it's a persona of the internet, right? So what if internet was a person, ChatGPT is that person up until 2021. Now, I am a government who doesn't like this personality. So what I want to do is change this or tweak this personality into more something that will work for me. So I employ 500 people. They all write scripts every day, and they ask very specific type of question, update very specific websites that the speed.
By the way, you're talking about governments have already done on social media.
I'm just saying it will accelerate
exponential.
And it will become very scary. So we need to have, and this is the problem. Whoever owns this has a moral responsibility and an impossible job. It's I cannot blame them for why they're not doing a good job because it's very difficult to do, and unfortunately they have to do that difficult job.
Are we saying we need a decentralized?
Yes, wink, wink.
To be honest, I think you're advocating for the opposite, weren't you?
No. I'm advocating for decentralized ChatGPT. So, for instance, if
So how do
OpenAI,
you get rid of that problem then? With decentralized, because if it's a wild west of everyone putting all sorts of stuff in there, how's this? There is no self-governing taking place.
So at the moment, there's one. Because it's centralized, there's essentially one big company that owns, the data and they have the power. So if someone builds, maybe we, if someone builds, a decentralized version of ChatGPT, and same concept with cryptocurrency, right? Where, for instance, the people can contribute with data, with their own data.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
So that can also be hacked. That can also be manipulated in that sense. The easiest
But essentially what happens is you give the power back to people. instead of someone, an entity, having all the power.
But remember, the people, as much as I believe in people and society and the utopian world that we're potentially living in, the reality of that, and particularly from that sort of like kind of a true anarchy. I mean, look, obviously people will stand in different places in terms of like, we are good enough from a society to like not want to blow each other up. But there are often the little outliers over there, and the outliers with enough power and backing behind them, i.e. the DDoS type thing that you were mentioning before, Pankaj, which is someone that, with the ill intentions, create enough things, even in a decentralized world, to manipulate and move things because they've got the power and scale within that AI to do that.
Yep.
The only benefits out of like a group of, let's call it trusted companies like Microsoft or whoever's behind us, because we trust them right now with any of the other stuff, at least the benefits behind that is that they're almost obligated to have a set of controls in place for this. In a way, with our data, with stuff that they do. Because if they're not, this would be like...
This is a fascinating topic, and I'm afraid we'll not be able to cover the whole
Sure,
scope of
sure.
it. The reason, okay, again, I cannot stop talking about these things. Okay.
Yeah.
So two things. Make the API calls expensive, right? Now what happens if OpenAI works with, they already work with Microsoft. So if there is a single entity which is making money out of it, they are making money out of it by volume, not by value. So what that means is they will give, I heard it's $42 per month. That might be a rumor because 42 is a funny number. But they might say that, okay, you give me $42, use as much as you want. And the reason why they're doing that is because for them, they only worry about the compute space, and because they know the whole world wants to use it, they can set the price as low as they want. Now, if we decentralize it, the advantage is the value is not defined by them, but by automatic. It depends on how many people wants to use it and how much resources available. If someone wants to manipulate the system, they have to spend a lot more money to manipulate the system, and that's a deterrent. We can have that as a deterrent. Or even if Microsoft does it, there should be some way of first. One of the good things about Microsoft is they don't sell their Face API to US government or federal agencies in US. However, they don't say the same thing about other governments, which is funny. But they should not sell these APIs to entities which have potential to manipulate other people. Right?
For now, until we see another WikiLeaks, and there's going to be more.
That's the thing. That's the thing. We need. So that's the technical side of it. How we can try to control it. I don't know if that's a solution, but I'm saying make it expensive to manipulate. Right?
That's actually quite an interesting thing because, to be honest, like we've seen, I mean, forget about before we even talk about AI and things like that, we've seen in the last like 20 years the advent of some of these big giants that have come through, like Facebook, like everything else, and they've all gotten into some sort of fracas with the governments around like the kind of information they're gathering and what they're doing with it and how it's used to manipulate, like when there was the Cambridge Analytica saga and everything else. So there is definitely intent with some of these governments to tighten up the controls on this and tighten up the kind of governance and regulations around this as well, right? But I think there's also, what that does is only the big guns, like your Microsofts, like your Googles, everyone else, can have the money to kind of like really invest in these types of things. But if there's a happy middle, and I think this is where we could possibly wrap up today's topic, but like if there's a happy middle where decentralized from a AI perspective and decentralized from a crypto, if there's a way to be able to demonstrate how the two systems with the technologies in place and with the kind of thinking that's been put in place around usage like smart contracts and everything else actually helps to create more trust in this instance. So you can put governance in other areas, but at least you know that you're not relying on companies with purely the intent of making money or manipulating the data. Because we've now let this be for the people, but we've put enough little controls and things in place that it could help. So my final question is to wrap up and summarize this whole thing is, and this is probably a hard one, we may not even be able to cover it today, but what...
Yeah, that's the hard point.
Yeah?
Let's just go.
What are some, not controls, there's too corporate a world, but what are some things that we can put in place that helps the people who actually want to look after the people, hopefully, the governments, to get more confidence that decentralized could be a good way on both these fronts, crypto and AI.
So ChatGPT is not the only AI solution. There are actually other open source AI solutions available. So no one is stopping anyone from creating a decentralized version of ChatGPT. It will be a little different. It may not be as mature as ChatGPT. But the thing is, the way society works, everyone needs to make money.
Yeah.
And the moment there is an opportunity, why will the guy who's building? I mean, OpenAI is not owned by Microsoft. It's a separate company.
Correct.
It's
Yeah, that's right.
and
That's right.
and
Yeah.
in the end, they went to the guy who has the most money.
Of course.
So what's
You mean who's they?
OpenAI? OpenAI is a
company, yeah.
separate company.
Or they or the guy with a lot of money
It's Microsoft.
came like
I know.
They
But then
just be an open
the power just shifted from OpenAI to Microsoft.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is,
Well, now that's at the opening bid. Who knows who else is out there?
exactly.
Yeah,
And we don't like the whole idea of decentralized being good for people does not work because people who build these solutions also need to make money. And when they spend 2 or 3 years
It's the
building
concept of like a startup that goes into being absorbed
yes,
by.
yes. The only option is where you have keep it open source, make it available, and it is always open source, and everything is built on open source and decentralized. That's the only way.
Okay.
But why would anyone spend time on
sorry,
that?
I'm not getting the
Okay, let's say you create this company which is going to build a version of ChatGPT from a different. There are open source models that are available. So, ChatGPT is just one instance, right? You can create similar instances. That's fine. Now, let's say you create a company which does both, which takes AI and which creates a smart contract and marries them together such that everyone that wants to use it has to use a new token that you have created, right? So that means someone has to buy your token, doing that increasing the value of your token, and or provide resource to run the compute that is required to run the AI, right? So these are the only two factors that will come into, I'm assuming, that will come into this, and the need to have stored the data that we need to run the AI on. Okay, why are you doing this? Why are you building this? You are doing this so that you can make money out of it.
Not necessarily.
If you're an individual who's doing it,
Why did Vitalik Buterin created Ethereum? I mean, there's probably some economic side of it, but I believe from a guy like him, I think it was more like the idea.
sure.
But you're,
Now-
relying on enough of that sort of.
He obviously needed capital, right? And that there's no doubt about that. But
now, hypothetically, let's say you started working
or,
on this
or, or
project.
especially someone like already has a lot of money, like him, right? Or anyone that has a lot of money. If you already have a lot of money, you might want to just do something that's good
For the society.
for society. Yes.
Okay. So now let's say you are doing this, right?
Yeah.
After 6 months, Google comes and talks to you saying that Microsoft already got ChatGPT. I want to buy your company. I'm giving you $1 billion. Will you sell it or not?
I mean, if so, in my case, right? If I have already a lot of money, and if I build this for the idea, I would probably not sell it.
Yeah, but that's a very specific use case where there are only 20, 25 people who can do that.
It's like essentially, there are people that would sell it, there are people who would not sell it. What I'm trying to say is that not everyone will do it just for the money.
No, but I think I hear where Pankaj's point is around this one is that if you look at forget about all these kinds of new tech around this, but if you would just look at the traditional tech startup, because we're all driven by capitalism. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
so if you have a startup, the chances are you actually want to sell this to make money and everything else. Because as much as you want to help people, you want to make money, right? The thing with, and I think I know what you're now getting at, is if the premise of this only remains on open source, then it works. Meaning you can't capitalize and make it into a private company and sell it off and everything else. It still only remains on open source. Then it has the power for it to still be for the people and not being manipulated by companies and organizations for anything else. But if it becomes like a hybrid model, then I think it can be a really interesting one. Like,
the scenario is that someone creates a company. Sorry, not even create a company. Just create a smart contract and the tokens and release it and close down the whole thing. As in does not have any monetary investment within that system.
Yeah.
That's the only scenario where it can be. Again, we won't expect them to update the system if it goes down. Like we need some kind of supporters to it, right? And it's a bit complicated subject. Like it's not something that we can just sit and come up with a solution.
To be honest, I think we've now opened up a few topics. We touched on a few things, but we've opened up quite a few topics that will better keep us busy on this. But I wanted to kind of take a pause there and actually thank my guests here today. We're going to be our regular hosts as well, Pankaj and Andy, and I'm Diggy. So we're the Blockheads, and we're excited to continue to bring you guys hopefully some uplifting, but also some point to consider and things to ponder over the coming weeks, particularly around this interesting topic around cryptocurrency, as well as any of the kind of upcoming tech that's coming through. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.